Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. It's Will Brett from One Track Mind magazine. Today we're going to be looking at how to ride steep trails. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, how to set up your bike, different techniques for riding steep trails, and hopefully we can get you riding them sooner rather than later and safely so you can have more fun. First thing we're going to do, we're going to look at bike setup. So I've got this white E150 RS, which is obviously an e-bike by the size of the motor. This was kindly lent to me by Ace Bicycles of Guildford. Thank you very much, Toby. It's saved me on quite a few occasions with all the camera gear. Okay, so first things first, bike setup. Make sure you have the right bike setup is really important, especially when riding steep stuff. You want to be able to control your speed and always be in control of the bike, so that's having maximised grip, being able to brake without skidding, all this kind of stuff. Your position on the bike so you're always in control. So first thing we're going to look at is the brakes. As you can see on mine, the brakes, ignore the handguards, they're very fashionable handguards. As you can see, the brakes are actually almost level. They're pretty high up there, rather than you quite often see more aggressive angles on their brakes where they're down here. I really wouldn't recommend that, and I'll explain why. But what's really important, which I'll try and demonstrate here, is when you're in your riding position, your wrist is straight. So if you're like this, because your brake's all the way down here, you're actually just holding on with your thumb and your arms are up there and you've got nothing to push against, and it's just going to be a really uncomfortable time and you're going to struggle braking. You're probably also going to get arm pump a lot quicker. Arm pump is when you get all the pain in your arms and you struggle to brake and your fingers hurt and your arms hurt. Deer over there. The other thing that I quickly mentioned then is you don't need to grip onto your bars really tightly. That's actually counterintuitive. It doesn't offer anything. If anything, it restricts the blood flow in your arms, causing arm pump quicker. So having your brakes at this kind of angle means that you can lean on the bike, so you've got your body weight against it. You are locked into your bars, but you're easy to brake. It's really easy to brake. So next thing we're going to look at is your actual bike and the geometry. So this is a short travel e-bike. But as you can see, the geometry is actually quite aggressive, so it's really slack at the front. I mean, it's not as slack as some enduro bikes, but it's slack enough to ride some steep stuff comfortably. What that means is the angle of your fork. That's slack, that would be considered steep. So this is quite slack, which means when you're going down the hill, your forks are actually set up nicely for going down the hill and they can absorb the bumps nicely. And that is suspension setup. Having your suspension set up is really important, not only for absorbing the big hits, but also it absorbs the smaller bumps in the trail, and when it absorbs, your tyres are kept on the ground, which means you can brake correctly and you've got better traction. So head to the RockShox website if you're using RockShox or Fox and grab the base settings, which is setting your sag to whatever percent they recommend, which is usually 25% or 30%. Based on your body weight, and also then you can play around with clicks such as rebound and compression. So yeah, suspension, just to summarize, suspension not only absorbs the big hits, but it also helps your tires stay on the ground, meaning you can safely brake, which is really important when riding steep stuff, because it's all about control, managing your speed and having a good time. So next, the last thing I'm going to mention in this video is your tires. Having the correct tyres for what you're riding is really important. Don't just go on Facebook and go, what's the best tyres? You're never going to get the right answer. You need to know what trails you're riding and what style of riding you're doing. For me, I'm riding chalk and loam. So I've gone for the Maxxis Assegai and the Minion DHR, which are pretty decent tyres. They've got a reasonable amount of tread. These are both, I believe, 2.4 inches in width. And tyre pressure is really important. Having the right tyre pressure can make or break your ride. The harder your tyres, the faster you'll go, but the more you'll struggle to brake, and the less traction you'll have. So, contrary to what people believe, a lower tyre pressure can actually make you faster. So, what I mean by my tyres currently, I have 21 psi in the front and 21 psi in the back and 19 psi in the front. Now that's quite low. Some people run them lower, and you might need to run inserts for that. So I'm actually running my tyres tubeless. You can run them with tubes, but running them tubeless, one, you're less likely to get a puncture because the sealant will fix the hole, hopefully. But also you can run them lower pressures. So I've actually got 19 psi in the front and 21 psi in the back, and that's quite low. That means that there's quite a lot of squish in the tyre. And I run them low at the front because that's where I want the traction. At the back, I'm kind of doing more of my heavy hits, so I want a bit more pressure in there, and also you get your speed from that. So running them lower means I can brake easier. I've got grip all the time, well, as much of the time as I can hope for, and that's more important, so I can brake into the corners and come out fast rather than have high tyre pressures, fly into the corners, not being able to brake and just skidding all over the place, all off the trail, off my line, and then I'm actually resulting in a slower speed. So I've come to one of my local trails today. I know this one's going to be quite quiet because it's not that well known, and it's got some really nice steep stuff and a load of deer, it looks like. So we're going to have a quick run down this trail. It's as you can see, really dry. It's chalk. Chalk is notorious for being incredibly slippery in the wet. This trail's actually a lot of fun in the wet. You just fly around down it, skidding all over the place, but that's important to have your bike set up correct. So yeah, we're just going to come down this trail now. I'll do a POV video, so with the GoPro on me, and then I'll do one showing me coming down without the GoPro on. And hopefully you can look at body position, the fact that I'm trying to stay loose on the bike so I can maneuver the bike underneath me and absorb any hits. As you see, there's lots of like roots and rocks here to kind of bounce you all over the place, so having that suspension and brake set up correctly is really important. We've also got a really sharp, almost 180-degree corner here, so line choice is really important. So what I'm going to do when I come to this corner is, instead of following this main line, which makes the corner really tight, is I'm going to try and pull up early, really high onto this bank, open this corner up as wide as possible, meaning I don't have to brake as hard, which means I can keep my traction, keep my speed, but also I'm not leaning my body into this tree here. Let's drop in. I'm going to ride this quite slowly and try and exaggerate all the line choice. But as you can see, my wrists are quite straight. So I'm actually going to come up high here, open this corner way up. See, my arms are staying quite loose, and just come around here, up high again. And it's just that easy. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly show you how not to do it. So I'm going to come to the inside of this tree here, which will really tighten the corner up, and you'll see that actually going higher at the bank and widening out the corner does make a big difference. So hopefully that example made it clear that line choice is really important, not just riding steep stuff, but in general. It doesn't look steep on here, but it's a lot steeper in real life, GoPro effect and all that. So we're going to go find some steeper trails now. I'm going to do some POV runs down it, hopefully talk to you along the way, let you know what I'm doing, what's going through my head, and also try and get some other clips of riding some steep stuff. So hopefully at the end of this video you'll feel more comfortable trying steep stuff. I think it's important to note now, ease your way in, don't just go to a really steep stuff. Don't watch someone like Remy Metallier on YouTube, see him doing these humongous rock rolls and just think you can do that. He is such a pro, which goes without saying. So work your way in, start easy, start what's steep for you, and build your way up when you get comfortable. Once you've really dialed in those techniques, such as braking, traction, cornering, line choice, all that, and go from there. Yeah, we're just going to roll down this trail all the way now, a bit quicker. One thing I haven't mentioned is breathing. Make sure you're breathing all the way down the trail. People tend to hold their breath. As you can tell, I'm quite out of breath from coming back up the trail. But holding your breath is going to lead to muscle fatigue, which is going to lead to arm pump, slower brain function, and you're going to struggle more down the trails with arm pump and reaction time. So ensure you're breathing all the way down and looking ahead too. Don't look what's right in front of you, be looking to the next maybe 2 things in front of you. Always look ahead. So here we go, let's do a rundown. So I'm widening this corner way up, so it almost didn't feel like a corner. Doing the same here. And we'll do the same here. Top. This trail is so loose, nearly lost the front end then. And now a nice steep roll and just let off the brakes. Okay, we're going to try and do a steep trail at kind of race pace. So you see how I didn't that corner up? Not on the brakes here at all, but I'm going to brake early for this corner. And it's just looking ahead. Here we go, a jump. Nicely nosed into the landing, trying to keep a straight line as possible, controlling my speed on the brakes here. I'm really just feathering them. And this gets really loose, so just keep it. And all the braking bumps here. Okay, so we're going into the next part of the trail now. And it's quite flat and uphill for a second, but it does get steep in a moment, so make sure you're ready. It's always best to go slow the first time down a trail. I know this trail really well. Get the inside line there. Okay. And this is where you can see everyone's braked really hard, and a nice steep rock roll. Not a rock roll, just a roll. And then into a nice fast section. Okay, this has got a nice rut in it. There we go. Try not brake in the corners, try and brake early. There's probably a ton of wind noise on the GoPro right now, so hopefully you can hear me. And this is the end of the trail. So just before we head up to the next trail, I just wanted to show this roll here, which I accidentally called a rock roll. It's not a rock roll, it's just a steepish roll. And these are going to get bigger on the next few trails. But I'm just going to do a quick rundown with a different angle so you can see my body position, see when I'm braking. You'll see me slow down just before this roll here to control my speed. This is actually not very steep, so you don't really need to do that. You could jump that and land down here and be fine. For the steeper ones, you've got to really slow down to roll in so you don't fly off the end of them. So let's head up there now, do a quick shot of that and move on to the next trail. Here we go. So just on the pedal back up, this is the next trail we're going to be hitting. Again, it's not going to look very steep on camera, but believe me, it's quite steep. It's also really loose, lots of roots to lose traction on, and you just want to control your speed before this roll. Again, it's not a very steep roll, so you can just fly off it and land probably towards the bottom of it, and then you straight into this next section, which if I just run up here a bit, you'll be able to see what we're riding really. So we're kind of in this big bowl, I guess. On the other side of this is a quarry. I don't know if this was a quarry once. It's really steep, so hopefully that'll give you kind of a sense of what we're riding today. Another trail. This one's a bit steeper than the last one. And I know what's coming up. Make sure I'm breathing, keeping my hands loose. Yeah, let's not take a Strava line. Okay, Okay, it's going to get really loose now, so make sure you brake early and not in the corners so you control your speed down. And again, nice and slow into this one, which is really tight as well. And again, another really loose one. So just make sure you slow down early to control your speed, letting the bike move under you. And that's a prime example why you look ahead. So this trail's had a tree fallen down, which means it's changed. So you can anticipate that. Okay, I'm almost going at a crawling pace now. See, I can control my speed, and I can stop, track stand, and roll down if I want to. So I can actually hit that a lot quicker, but for demonstration, I just want to show you that you can control your speed if you've got your bike set up correctly and your technique correct. So again, this is a really tight and now off camber. So it's controlling my speed in. There we go. Okay, and we'll do the next bit fast. Just to show you how you can do it with speed. So there's lots of nice little catch berms on this one. There we go. Okay, if you go wide here, you can actually open that corner up, making it a lot easier. And again, another roll, controlling my speed into another roll, controlling my speed into this corner, make sure I'm breathing and looking ahead, off the brakes, and control your speed as it comes to quite an abrupt end here. There you go. So just before we head up to the next trail, I've just found this nice little steep section here. You can see it's really quite well ridden. Up the top, I don't know if you can see from here, but it's a ton of braking bumps. I'll get a better angle. So as you can see here, maybe you can see here on the camera, maybe not. You pop in, but you're actually landing on an off camber, so it's at an angle, which is not ideal for a roll. So you can either go down here through this rough stuff, you can go here, which is probably the easiest line now, but we're going to take the main line, coming down this horrible rough stuff, where everyone's just dragged their brakes because they're not doing the technique properly. Okay, so that's nice and easy. It's a really grippy day. Sometimes this can be really slick here and then your technique has to be on point. But today that was really easy. Just roll on down. Yeah, just stay in control. So back to the top, we'll take a quick look at the steepest part of the trail, which hopefully we'll be able to get a clip off if I can push the bike back up. So let's head up there now and have a look. Just gonna hit a quick little kind of play ridge line here before we go back up. So why not? Okay, nice and controlled. So here we are, this is the steepest trail here, or the steepest I know of anyway. This is, I think, the steepest part of it as well. So there's a couple of line choices you got here. You can go, well, it's probably more than a few, but in fact it looks like someone's been riding here. But if you come down the main line here, it's probably the easiest. I reckon I'm probably going to come down this side here, so it's got a kind of almost a double drop, so you can jump from there to here, or you can kind of roll it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, do this trail at race pace or as close to as I can. It's actually really technical at the top with a ton of really tight corners that you can kind of endo around. In fact, the hardest bit of this trail for me is at the end of this section is a 180 corner between two trees, and it is really tight. You really want to endo it or go off the trail and up onto the bank and try and open it up a bit. So yeah, we're going to come down here now, get a POV shot, and then hopefully get another angle of it as well. So let's head on up there now. See you at the top. Okay, going into the steep trail now. Sorry about the wind noise. Okay, again, I'm looking ahead, making sure I'm breathing, keeping my arms relaxed, not gripping the bars too much. will get steep in a moment, I promise. But it probably won't look like it on GoPro. Okay, here we go. We're going to veer off left here, and already it's getting tech. So brake control is important. I'm going to try and stay on the line rather than straightening out lines. Okay, open that one up a bit. Okay, someone's made a bit of a Strava line here. And here we go, this is where we get really steep. So I'm just going to make sure no one's coming. And we're all good. And roll, and jump. There we go. And we're going to head into the next bit. Bit of a badger hole there. Okay, you want to try and get up high here, which I messed up, which now I'll show you how tight that corner is. Really tight, and this is really loose. So again, controlling your speed, laying off the brakes, and we're into a roll, just make sure no one's coming. And this is really loose through here. So across the roots there, as you see, I skid it out a bit there. And as this crosses a trail, just make sure you're not going to collide into anyone. And we've already done this trail once today, so we might as well hit it again. Fly in the eye. Okay. Just controlling the speed across the roots there. Don't brake on roots, that's another good point, because you're just going to lose traction and slide down. Whereas if you off the brakes over the roots, you're probably going to carry on riding over them. And they're not that bumpy, so you won't really notice them. There we go. That's breathing, relaxing my hands so I don't get arm pump. And now, nice controlled braking. So thanks for joining me today on this introduction to riding steep trails. Just a quick summary of what we learned today. So bike setup, having your brakes at an optimal position so that your arm, show you on this one, your arm is straight and you've got something to push against the bars so you don't have to grip on tight, which means you won't get arm pump, which means your arms will be able to perform correctly. Suspension setup, having that set up correctly for you is important, your body weight and your ride style. So if you don't know how to do that, visit your local bike shop or search for some videos on YouTube, there's plenty out there. You can visit RockShox or Fox or any of the big suspension brands, and they'll have some base settings which will get you most of the way there to your correct setup. So we've also got tyre choice. Here I've got an Assegai and a Minion DHR. These work for me and my trails. They might not work for you where you ride. They're good tyres, but you want to find tyres that work for you. So don't just go on Facebook and go, what's the best tyre? It doesn't exist. It's what's the best tyre for you and your riding style and the trails you ride. What I've got here is I've got 21 PSI in the back, 19 in the front. Again, tyre pressure is really important. The lower the tyres, the more grip you'll have, but the more squirrely they'll be in the corners, and the more likely you can get a ding in your rim, or if you're riding with tubes, you might get a pinch flat. So you probably have to ride higher pressures with tubes. These are tubeless, which means I can run them lower. You can also get rim inserts as well. You can look up some reviews on our site, onetrackmind.bike, for some rim inserts and tyre reviews as well. So that's your bike setup. Make sure you're breathing, looking ahead, not squeezing your grips, and staying focused is really important. So riding technique, open up your corners, make them easier so you're not having to turn so much, is really important. Braking where there's grip and before features, really important, especially when you come to steep rolls. Slowing down so you can control your speed into them will really help you stay in control. So thanks for joining me today. I'm Brett from One Track Mind magazine. That's onetrackmind.bike, our website. We also have an iOS and an Android app, which you can check out. All our reviews and articles are free. We're working with most of the big brands in the industry doing reviews and news and stories, videos, all that good stuff. So check us out. If you like what we're doing on the channel here on YouTube, like and subscribe, leave a comment below. We're getting better at responding to comments now, and we're going to be bringing out a lot more YouTube content as we go forwards. So yeah, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Kind of race pace. So you see how I walked into the landing, trying to keep a straight line as possible, controlling my speed on the brakes here. So just keep it. Okay, it's going to get really loose now, so make sure you brake early and not in the corners, so you can. And I can stop, track stand, and roll down if I want to.